Hi, I'm Eric Lubau, and welcome to Beyond the Belt. This is a conversation with Matt Shamloo, a black belt out of Long Island, New York, USA. Matt is a wedding photographer and videographer, BJJ and MMA coach, and avid Tony Robbins supporter. I hope you enjoy our chat.
Hey, Matt, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, Eric.
Tell me, what was it like for you to get your black belt?
So the school I go to, or just gym I train at, we do something where we give you two options. Do you want to know, or do you want to be surprised? We give them that option because if you do want to know, it gives you an opportunity to bring family in. And I do like those types of surprises. However, the past few years, I've gone to really develop a good relationship with my dad and my sister. They have been like my key people. And at that time, I had also started teaching and mentoring other people. So I'm like, it would mean a lot to me. Like, I used to be one of those people where it's like, oh, I secretly want people, but I'll be like, oh, you don't have to be there. Like, I kind of just didn't really put myself first. This time I did. I was like, Dad, I would love if you came. Sandy, who's a teacher, by the way, and the reason why I'm bringing this up, and you'll see in a little bit, like, I would love if you came. And then I had another student who wanted to come by, and the only thing was it was a Friday. It was a school day. My sister took a day off from work. My dad went to work late. And one of my students, I mentor, he's 13 years old, and his parents were going to let him cut school, but he actually had a field trip that day that he couldn't cut school for. Uh, but it was just really, that was the stuff that meant a lot. And the classes I usually train at is 10 o'clock in the morning. And what really meant a lot for me was not even getting the black belt. It was more of the people that decided to show up that day where, most people work Fridays at 10 o'clock, but it was a full house. And that meant that people either had they coincidentally got sick that day or they just called out. But it meant a lot that people really changed their schedules for me. And that was really the focus of the whole experience. I've given a speech, and I had told people, I go, like, the best part about this whole experience is realizing not how far I've come as far as jujitsu, but how far I've come as a person, where, I can be capable of being somebody who can bring in people who are willing to take off work. So just feeling that love and feeling that appreciation, that was definitely the best part about the whole experience, was definitely that ability to share it. Um,
What made you change to the point where because you said you normally were like, whatever. Like, what made you change to where you felt like you could ask and wanted to ask for the people?
so I got my black belt December 15th, 2023. The week before, no, it's actually 2 weeks before, technically, I attended an event called Tony Robbins Day with Destiny. And this event really talks about our needs, our values, the rules that we set for ourselves, and how we live our life, whether it's good or bad, based on these beliefs. And it gives us an opportunity to possibly change it, see what's holding us back, see what beliefs we have about ourselves that really hold us back from the things that we want. And for me, I was always very passive. I was one of those people where I'm like, I was tough enough to handle not being like a priority in order to convenience somebody else. I didn't want to inconvenience other people because I just felt like it wasn't like worth it. So I was like, oh yeah, no, it's okay. You don't have to be there. It's no worries. But deep down, I was wanting it. At one point during the seminar, we had to make a difficult call. And what a difficult call was, we had to call somebody who we potentially blamed for something of our, if we're going to put blame on them, we're going to blame them for the things they've done right also. So one of those calls was to my father. And, I could blame my dad for, the relationship we had growing up. But however, as I grew up, I learned to really appreciate him a lot more and understood him a lot more. And I had that conversation with him. It was very freeing. At the end of that conversation, I said, hey, Dad, like, just letting you know, like December 15th, I'm getting my black belt. I would love for you to attend. And he, without even hesitating, said yes. And
That's
that would,
wonderful.
thank you. Yeah, it was one of those things where I'm like, I wanted, giving yourself that opportunity to just break free of those hard and calcified beliefs. It feels like you're never going to get out of it, but yeah, since that conversation, the relationship that I have with him is so much better now. And, I try to encourage a lot of people to have those difficult conversations because it really does a huge gift for you.
What made you go to the Tony Robbins thing?
Let's see. Right now we're in 2025, so I'll give you a little bit of a timeline. 2012 to about 2017, I was definitely at like a mental low. I was really just lost with what I was doing with my life. I didn't really have a set group of friends. I had a career that I was really good at, and I was growing and doing great things with my own business, but I just wasn't happy with who I was. And I was told, like, you know, do a career that you love. You know, I was pretty much told to do everything that I wanted to do, or told to make life the way I wanted it to be. But that wasn't doing it for me as far as like, I don't want to say being happy, but there was just something missing. And I felt this sense of like loneliness, I felt this sense of like inadequacy. And I remember I was talking to one of the people that works for me, and I was talking to him not about all this, but I was talking to him about like, I feel like there's something missing in my life. I don't know what it is. And he was telling me about this seminar he went to, a Tony Robbins seminar. And this was the beginning of 2019. And he goes, yeah, there's an event at the end of 2019. It's in Miami. It's this much money. And I'm like, what the heck? Let me try it out. Um, so I was like, let me just chance it. And those events have been very powerful. I'm not sure how much you know about it, but
I know quite a bit about Tony Robbins, and I read a whole bunch of his stuff, and I've watched some of his videos, and I think he's like very fascinating. But I think it would be helpful for whoever's listening who doesn't know who he is if you just give like a little summary of
yeah,
like,
I was wondering. Yeah, I was wondering. I'm like, okay, like how much did you want to know? For me, he goes as like a personal development coach, but business coach, but also personal. And it really teaches you about life where he's not like a psychologist, he's not a motivational speaker, but it really gives you this idea of, hey, because when you go to these events, you're in a room with somebody who's either dirt broke, who gave up their last, who probably just had the clothes on their back and that's it. You also have people who are worth billions in that same room. And sometimes you're there for the same exact reason. And it was one of those things where I'm like, I used to have this idea that like certain people just didn't have problems and certain people just had everything going. But I would see some really good looking people who had great careers, who were built. And then you find out that, I'm not saying that they're a mess, but you find out that their life isn't where they actually want it to be. Even though I would trade to be in their position and someone would trade to be in my position. And if I had to sum up what the whole Tony experience is, it's about really looking at why is it that we feel the way that we feel, you know, learning to be grateful, expectations over appreciations. There's so much to this, but I could do like a 5 hour podcast on this one. But it really talks about, you know, what needs are we making? Why are we doing the things that we do? Why is it, oh, this is my favorite one. The amount of people that want to lose weight. Why is it that we all know how to lose weight? Most people know how to lose weight in today's world. You can ask ChatGPT, you can Google it, you can hire trainers, you can do everything you need to do. You can do whatever it is you need to do. It's so accessible to find out how to lose weight. Yet people don't do it. Yet people don't stick to a plan. People have this motivation, but then when it's time to go, that momentum goes out.
self-discipline's really hard for people. Self-discipline is not a thing that the average person has. and that work ethic to have it. Like I wish more people knew that self-discipline meant freedom and not like self-discipline and structure gives you freedom. And I don't think a lot of people are willing to believe that unless they've experienced it for themselves.
I do think, especially because I know it's a Jocko quote, and I think what ends up happening is people don't believe they could be disciplined.
Yeah.
I think happens, and the reason why I'm saying this because it's stuff that I had believed. I at one point thought I was never going to be able to be a black belt. Like there's there's really two things I've learned from the whole program is that we all have two fears, and it's one, we're not good enough, and two, if we're not good enough, we're not going to be loved. And when I heard those things, I'm like, I never felt so connected because that's how I felt with a lot of these things. I didn't feel good enough to be like, hey, can you inconvenience yourself possibly? It would mean the world to me to come to my black belt event. And then there's a part of you, it's like, okay, do I deserve to be loved? Should I even ask? So those things really were a big foundation. And learning that a lot of these beliefs are just stories that we tell ourselves, that was a big thing for me. Because I felt like it was one of those things where I was just, it was like a chemical imbalance, or I thought this was just the way I am, or it's just genetic. However, it really gave me the tools to learn, hey, you don't have to live life like this. You don't have to be part of this cycle. You don't have to live this life in autopilot. You can create a life that you want. And it really just turned the direction of my life. And what was great was this event was right before COVID. And I think I couldn't have handled COVID better mentally because I was like, oh, how can I give to somebody? Can other charities I could do? Can I work out? Can I, connect with people? Can I just do creative things to just have a good time?
Did you
And
leave that thing with a community? Like, did you leave that thing and know, so now I've got a whole community of people around me that I didn't have before who shared strugglers, you shared vulnerability with, etc.
absolutely, it's one of those things where there's friends who I've had since I've been 5 years old. However, you share a room with this person, with these people for 5 days, you become much closer. And it's one of those things where it was one of those bittersweet moments of saying goodbye. And the best part is when I saw them 4 years later, it's like nothing happened. So that's where I was like, this is a good group of people. And I like what these people are all about. I like what it brings out of these people. I like being around these people. And it really shifted the way that I look at things. And it definitely gave me the strength to have the courage to speak to my dad. I had the courage to speak to other people who I didn't necessarily have the best relationship with, but also bury those hatchets and really move on from those. And really, when I mean move on from, like really move on from them, where it doesn't hold weight on me anymore. Where I think that's such a gift for people because some people have certain anxieties or certain feelings that they feel are just never going to go away. But I mean,
One of
I've
the
learned.
interesting things that I learned about these kinds of things with vulnerability, I might mess up the quote, but it's something along the lines of when you grow up with vulnerability equaling punishment, it's hard for you to realize that vulnerability equals connection. And I think that as an adult, most of us who did not understand that or did not have those kind of parents, not that I didn't, like wonderful, loving parents, but I think like understanding vulnerability in that kind of way makes for a completely different kind of life. And it sounds like you were able to get that from the Tony Robbins seminar and having people around you who were willing to be vulnerable and hold space for you to be vulnerable in those moments, like found connection with each other.
Yeah. And what's good about those environments, especially the Tony community, is one, it is true. There's always somebody who has it worse than you. And we hear that constantly. And that's just something I feel like sometimes doesn't always click because you hear it constantly. But when you get a chance to become friends with those people and you see that all of their obstacles, they've been able to not necessarily overcome every single one of them, but they're pushing through. without even them trying to change me, it made me look at myself and go, should I really be complaining about this? Should I, like, do I really have it that bad? Can I take some gratitude from the situation? And that's what really changed me was there was a lot of people out there who had there was a lot of people out there who had nothing. There was a lot of people there who had horrible past of demons and abuse and heartbreak and trauma, where me telling my stories wouldn't even really be much to compete with theirs, but they're still doing great things. And there's a whole room of that. And if you want to be around those people, that's a place to go to. And that was definitely one of those things where I kept thinking, I'm like, maybe I could learn something from this. It made me want to be better. Like when I see people, oh, this is the best. Like when I see people who are like 50, 60, but they're like keeping up with people in their 20s and 30s with workouts, I don't even complain about anything. I'm like, okay, like I'm just gonna shut up. I'm just gonna, keep working, keep my head down. It was very humbling, and just I love
Sometimes I
going.
feel like that in at the gym, right? Like I'm not old, but like, mid 40s. And then, we get like a 25-year-old rugby player who is, like maybe a white belt, but still picking me up and throwing me around. And I'm like, okay, you can try that, but like give me a few minutes and we'll see how long this lasts as they start to tire out. And, like there's a level of like my own feeling of positivity and gratitude and appreciation for being able to still hold my own with 25-year-olds, 30-year-olds in my mid 40s.
That's awesome because I'm 30, but I was training when I was in my 20s. And one thing I had always heard this growing up is I remember when I'm a big American football fan. And I remember the big number that people hated was the number 30. Like once you're over 30, like quarterbacks, wide receivers, like they all kind of just they go downhill from there. The average guy at the gym that I was training at where I got my black belt from is probably in his early 50s, late 40s. It's a little bit of an older crowd. However, they're all in incredible shape. There's a 53-year-old gentleman. There's two of them actually. One is a personal trainer who is so active. The other one is like ESU, and they look like superheroes. And for me, it's like I have no excuse because this guy got up at, like they still do cold plunges, they still do like their early morning runs. And for me, like I just started running and I hate it. But you look at that stuff and it's I don't want to say motivating, but it gives you a perspective. It really reminds you, it's like, listen, like these beliefs that you have that you can't do it, you can. Because a lot of them, they work more hours than me. They have a lot more going on than I do. Not that I have nothing going on, but I don't have kids. I don't have a mortgage. I live alone. Where for them is they have three kids. They have a big house they got to pay for. They have a schedule that isn't flexible. So it's really humbling to see other people who are also doing those hard things. And that's what I loved about the Tony Robbins community because it may not be jujitsu or it may not be fitness, but it's still nice to see somebody who started from nothing has risen to the top and they still stay at the top. Because there's two things I think. One, I they're not much different than I am. They bleed, they eat, they drink water like I do. And two, they're not above, I don't want to say above average people, that's not the word I'm using for it, but they're not like they're normal people. People are people.
I think there's like a pretty healthy analog between some of the Tony Robbins stuff and jujitsu, right? Because at a certain point, like you have to kind of expose who you are to get to it. You have to confront your weaknesses. You have to double down on your strengths. Like in jujitsu, you decide, hey, I'm this body type, and I can use, my muscle if I have it. I can use my speed if I have it. I've got long arms. I've got short arms. Like all of these things, you confront them as, yes, they're problems, but they're also like there's negatives to that and there's positives to that. And you kind of have to confront that if you're going to get good enough to get to the upper belts and, hold your own. And I think in the Tony Robbins world, in any of these, like, um, uh, any of these places where you kind of need to get better, you have to confront some of the things that are problematic. You have to confront your limiting beliefs about who you are, what you've been through, and turn your weaknesses or what you perceive as to be your weaknesses into strengths. And you have to be vulnerable in order to do them in either one of those cases.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think fear is definitely the deciding factor of how your life's gonna turn out to be. Where there's a lot of things that we're quote unquote afraid of, or they just don't want to take the chance on. There's uncertainty with a lot of these things. So I'll give you another example. I love striking. Um, I actually bounce between jujitsu and Muay Thai. I'm not the tallest. Most of the people I spar against are taller than me. And it's very discouraging when you go against someone who's taller than you, and for some reason they keep hitting you. And I'm like, I've been training all these years, and I still keep getting hit. But it did, it did repel me from training for a while, and it discouraged me because I kept thinking, why bother? These kids are just gonna pick me apart anyway. I'll just stick with jujitsu. But someone else had, like, I've been watching a lot of the UFC fighters, and I'm like, I remember Mike Tyson, watching Mike Tyson on YouTube, and it's like, okay, he's shorter than everybody. Louis Taporia, he's shorter than everyone in his division right now, and
Yeah.
he's putting people to sleep. And it's just, I'm not saying it motivates me. It's just one of those things where these people don't let their beliefs stop them. And I remember Mike Tyson, I don't know the quote, but he looked at it, he looked at his height as a advantage, which gave me a different perspective. And I really think it's all about perspective when it comes to the things. And one of the things with Tony Robbins, and I want to just go back to this for a second. This was the thing that really got me to pull the trigger. I remember I was watching a video on YouTube, and he was talking about how there's two brothers, and these two brothers came up the same upbringing, same abusive father. They both got treated the same, but one of them ends up being like a super successful business guy. The other one's on drugs, borderline suicidal. But if you ask both of those brothers, what led you down this path? They both say the exact same thing. Brother one goes, I'm like this because of my father. Brother two goes, I'm like this because of my father. And it really gave me a different perspective, because one person used their upbringing as a fuel for their accomplishments. The other person looked at it as a drainer, as a poison,
Yeah.
but same thing. And that's
There's
the
a
thing that,
great quote about heroes and villains, and it's like they both have the similar. I don't have the exact quote off the top of my head, but it's like a hero and a villain are both hurt when they're young, and a villain says, "I'm hurt, and I'm going to make everyone else hurt too," and a hero says, "I'm hurt, and I'm never going to let anyone else be hurt again." And I think that's a perfect example of perspective of how your experiences and what happens to you shapes who you are, but ultimately what you do with that is the thing that defines you.
yeah, I definitely, I 100% agree with that. There's a lot of situations that I look at now. Okay, here's a good example. There's probably people in your life that who are going to look like this in a few years. We've
I've looked like
embraced,
this since I was 25.
yeah, no, for me, for some reason, it was a little bit earlier for me, but there's some people who are in their 30s and 40s who are starting to have a little bit of bald spots and they're falling apart. It's about perspective. It's like some people look at themselves and be like, oh my God, my life's falling apart. I'm balding. And then you could be like, you know, didn't Chris Daughtry get like handsome guy, like most handsome guy alive at one point? Like
Yeah.
that's just the way I kind of look at it now, where it's like, yeah, like there's people are into bald guys, like girls are into bald guys. Not everyone, but there's a good amount. The Rock's bald, um, but yeah, it's just the meaning that we put behind things. And that was the biggest thing that helped me, because there was a lot of meaning that I put in my life that I used as a shackle, and learning that you can change the meaning, and learning that you can change your life and change your reality. That was been a huge shift for me. And I think everything's been much better for me. It's helped me become who I am now and what I do now.
Is there any like misconceptions about Tony Robbins stuff that you want to clear up? Because for the longest time, I always thought it was a bit cult like.
Yeah,
And
that's kind of the thing.
like what's the biggest misconception that you sort of feel like you can help with?
It's like they think it's like a robotic cult where, everyone thinks the same, everyone says the same things. It's not. I think the best way to say it is if you're looking for someone who, if you feel like there's something missing in your life and there's a little bit more that you want, whether it be in your personal life, whether it be in your relationships, whether it be in your professional life, I think that community is definitely something really good because these people are or these are people who have very high standards for themselves and not just with money. It's not like I just want to make a lot of money and that's it. It's more of I want to have a relationship that's very fulfilling and passionate and not just a honeymoon phase and then we have sex like once a month. I want to have a career that is not just something that pays me well, but something where I serve a higher purpose. I want to be able to enjoy the aspects of my life. Not that I'm never going to feel upset again, but I want to be able to handle this type of stuff. And then also there's this idea of, hey, I want to be, I have a family. Actually, I'm a good example. I have a family of like a history of diabetes, heart attack, cancer, and all that stuff. But now I'm like, okay, that might be true, but I can still control my health. I can still choose to live life a certain way. So yeah, there is this idea of a cult. I just, if I had to tell people, I would say, give yourself permission to open your mind to something new. And I would definitely say to watch the documentary because I think
Yeah.
that definitely did a very good service because that's what made me pull the trigger on going to the event. Because at first I was like, is this going to be like some motivational seminar? It's like a funnel where because there's a lot like that. Like there was I won't
Well, the,
mention her
the
name.
way I saw Tony Robbins the first time where I agreed to like told myself it was okay to look into it was when he was I think he walked with Diego Sanchez to the UFC cage when Diego Sanchez was yelling, yes, 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 all the way from the locker room to the cage just at the top of his lungs. I was like, okay, that's that's interesting. I need to see what's causing this. And I looked into Tony Robbins and found out that it wasn't like a cult the way I had sort of perceived it to be.
Well, what was interesting, what I really loved was I got a chance to look at the people he's worked with, and I'm like, oh, these are like really high quality people. But then after I went to the seminar, Conor McGregor had his last. No, it wasn't his last fight. It's when he fought Cowboy Cerrone. Tony's like in his corner. And then when I saw that, I'm like, oh, Connor's gonna win, isn't he? And then Connor like won, like so, like it's in a very different state. Like I'm like, oh yeah, he drank the Kool-Aid for Tony, and I saw that I was like, that's really good to see. Um, it was, I think if people are anyone who I think wants better for themselves, I think would definitely be open, would definitely benefit from it in some way. Um, there's some people who are freaks about it. I probably am one of those freaks. But if you're somebody who just, if there's an area in your life, whether it's in your health, whether it's in your business, whether it's your free time, spirituality, all that fun stuff, if there's something that you want a little bit more of, I definitely would start with that. Um,
How has bringing that into your life affected the way you like train martial arts though? Like, I mean, you basically started that when you got your black belt, right? Like that was your change. Did that make you feel like you deserved it more? Did that change the way you train? Did that change the way you look at training?
it changed the way I look at the training. For me, I was doing this more. Okay. So for me, I was first training. When I first started training, I just wanted to be a badass. I just wanted people to look at me and be like, oh crap, I don't want to mess with them. I did that selfishly just because I was like, I wanted to be the guy that no one messed with, that
Did it
people
work?
just, I think so. I never really got into altercations or anything like that. But it's strange. Like you train all this time just to not ever have to use it.
Yeah.
Um, I remember Robert Downey Jr. said something about this. He goes like, yeah, I mean, I do all this training and like I would like to know I could use it, but I never had to. But for
Who'd
me,
fight
what
Iron Man?
I know, well, I mean, Thanos did, and Thanos kicked his ass, but
Yeah, fair.
uh, one thing for me is it's really changed my why. So I did focus on myself for a very long time. I just wanted to be if I saw someone who looked like a gym rat, I just wanted to know I could take him. That was really my goal because gym rats were the ones that always bothering me when I was younger. So when I got to a level that it was pretty clear that I could handle myself, and then I started comparing myself to everyone else at the gym. And like I would just get very insecure about it. But now I'm at a point where I do this for very different reasons. But for me, I'm doing this now because I want to take all of the hardships that I had with training, because I was one of those people. I had anxiety for every competition. I turned into a head case for everybody, but I still learned from all that stuff. And I want to be able to say, hey, these are all the things I experienced. Let me see if I can help somebody else with this. And for me, I love helping out kids with this type of stuff. Like I always wanted to be a big brother. And like the program I teach now, it allows me to act in that role. So all the lessons I learned from Tony about the appreciation, about progress, about giving to others, that's what I want to share to other people. I tell my students all the time, I can care less if you compete. I don't. I want to open my own school one day. I don't want to be a competition school. I just want to be a school where someone's coming here because they're looking for something, and my goal is to help you find it. If it's something that you want to feel better about yourself just walking around, if it's something that you want to feel a little bit more like a man, we could do that. If it's something that you want to just do something difficult, we could do that. If you do want to compete, we can do that. But the goal isn't like to collect trophies and medals and all that stuff. The goal is, hey, I want you, there's potential here. Let's bring it out of you.
I'm curious about like one specific thing. Like you sort of said you were in a place where you weren't giving yourself permission to feel good or to look out for yourself. And yet you knew that you were getting your black belt at a certain time. Did you feel like you deserved it before that? And then you went to Tony Robbins and you were like, "Oh, I give myself permission to feel good about myself," and then even without receiving it, you went from, "I don't know if I deserve this," or maybe you thought you did already, to, "Actually, I've been working my ass off and I do deserve this."
If I had to say, there were times where I felt that imposter syndrome. And usually that imposter syndrome came from comparison. And usually I will look at the person that's picking up much quicker than I am, or the purple belt that was harder to submit, or I would look at the other. There's black belts that I train with who still toss me around like I'm nothing. Like I'm a restaurant for some of them sometimes. And that was the people I was comparing myself to. And I'm like, well, how can I be a black belt where I can't even get this person tired? Like this person just looks at me like I'm a joke. And that was a real difficult thing for me. And then I'm realizing it's like, okay, I logically put them in a place where they are just at that level. However, and this is something that I learned very later or very late, but I always had that attitude of like, keep your head down and keep walking forward. And it wasn't until like the middle of my brown belt where I go, I've never really tracked how far I've come here. I never really tracked like my progress. I never really gone like, oh, look how far I've come. And when I started doing that, when I started comparing myself to who I was, that's when I started to really appreciate things. That's when things started to make sense for me, because I was definitely one of those people that I would, instead of focusing on myself, I would focus on other people. That comparison was really robbing me of just any sort of happiness at all. But when I started realizing, I'm like, hey, like, look how far I've come. Like, I'm here consistently for years. And I do the tournaments. I don't back away from anybody. I consistently try to make things harder for me. I try to go with bigger people, stronger people, the athletes, the black belts, the white belts. I'm like, why not? And what I also realized was, and I'm not trying to make everything about Tony Robbins in this podcast, I promise, but you do learn about the states and you learn about where the focus goes, the energy flows. And I was so focused on other people where I never really looked at my own progress. Where, okay, this person, yes, they're good. Yes, they might be a purple belt, but look at how far I've come. And now that I'm in my own position of where I'm teaching, I'm like, oh, it's not necessarily about who's like the best on the mat. Now, listen, like I definitely have like skills and whatnot. But I was always just looking at every result. Like I felt like I had to be undefeated in like situations. I put so much pressure on it. And then I realized like if I had to judge somebody else on their performance, I would not nearly be as hard as I am on myself. And that was really the realization I had when I'm like giving I didn't feel like I deserved it. I didn't. I gave myself I just feel like I didn't deserve to have that type of status. And then I'm like, you know what? I do. It's time. I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been putting in all this hard work. And I would be lying to you if I said like every day I wake up feeling I deserve my black belt. But over time it just becomes a little bit more settled in. Um, it
How do you
definitely
sort of convey that thing to the students? Like, how do you, like, you did this at your brown belt? You said it took you to brown belt to start comparing yourself against yourself. Because you teach kids and you work with kids and you I assume also have adult students, like, you probably helpful to try to convey this. Do you do that, or you're like, well, they're going to learn it on their own at some point?
I think, I like to think I was a mature kid growing up. I came up from like immigrant parents and I was working at a young age, but there was just a lot of beliefs that I had that were just so hardened. I feel like I was also at this point in my life where I looked at everybody else and just compare. I was just not happy with who I was as a person. Not even with jujitsu. And it was more than jujitsu, which is why I still thought it was like I didn't think I was enough as a person. And that was definitely my biggest struggle is just thinking I was good enough to be anything. Like I remember I was big into powerlifting when I was in high school. I definitely had the higher numbers in high school, but I didn't think I was strong. Like I was one of those people, like, not that this would ever happen, but if I were to beat like a world champ, say if I were to beat like Gordon Ryan, for example, not that I'm going to, but if I did, instead of saying, "Oh, I beat him," I would be like, "Oh, he must have had a bad day," or I'd be like, "Oh, like, you know, he must have been tranquilized right before the match happened." Like I would give myself a reason to not feel good, and that's where I realized I made my rules and my beliefs so difficult for me to feel good that I was never going to be happy. And I think that's why the whole Tony work really worked for me because it made me realize I was making my life so difficult, way more than I had to, where I'm literally doing the things that I would tell other people to do, but it still wasn't enough for me. So that's when I felt like, okay, something's up with not with my training, but with me, with the mentalness.
Yeah. So you don't really focus on trying to get other people to do this. You sort of just, you're like, you just kind of remind people that they're on their own and they're comparing against themselves.
I tell people that the worst thing about jujitsu is the thoughts you have when you're not there and the comparisons, because especially in the beginning where you're going to feel like you're getting good. And I tell people the belt I hated the most was blue because at that time you might be beating some purple belts, you might be keeping up with some purple belts, you might be impressing some upper belts, but then that white belt comes in who's just a little bit bigger or a little bit stronger and they give you a big run for your money. And then you start to look at yourself like, why the hell did I even try this? And it was just so confusing. And it gave me just a few, and one thing I also had to give myself a little bit more credit for was when you're in your 20s, especially in today's society, especially as a guy, there's so much competitiveness amongst each other where you're like, I can beat this guy in a fight. Oh, I beat this guy in a fight. Oh, I was doing that everywhere I went. And I wouldn't, that probably played a huge role where I wanted to be able to, and that was my biggest thing. I was always fearful that like someone would ever try to like hurt me. And it's what made me want to try. It's like that gave me, yes, a little bit of motivation, but it also was a kryptonite to my emotional well-being because I was always just trying to just be better than the other person. Where I didn't even train like to practice moves. I was like, I'm just going to try to beat you. And then that's what really changed. Because for me, I tell people, I go, you're going to have more bad days than good days. And this can be true or false, but those good days, they're incredible. And those bad days, they suck. But the good days do make it worth it. And the pride that you get subconsciously in other areas, it really benefits. Like the biggest thing I tell people about jujitsu with me is I consider myself a pretty calm person, and I work in the wedding industry where everybody in it who works in that industry is so easily stressed. But I'll roll in. Like people think I like smoke pot before the events. Like I never smoked weed in my life, but like people think I'm like this mellow person just because I'm like, hey, listen, yeah, I'm here to capture your wedding, the best day of your life. The one that you only do once. And I'm like, yeah, what's up?
Hopefully.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I go in with the attitude. I'm like, yeah, we got this. Like, cool. Ceremony's going to start soon. Yeah, there's traffic. Okay, we'll get around it. That calmness has come from martial arts without question.
How did you deal with being the smaller person? Like I know that we talked about this like beforehand that you're what, 5'7"?
5'7",
Yeah.
100 pounds now.
I mean, that's not that small, but
At my gym, there's a lot of so at my gym, if you were to line up everybody in like their weight order, I'm probably like smack in the middle. We have a lot of people who are like 220 plus. We have some 300-pound guys. We have a 400-pound black belt. Um, but I was also lighter at one point. I wasn't always like 200 pounds. Like at one point was 180, 190, 170. And I didn't understand this whole concept in the beginning, but you did have to be tougher. You did have to kind of try a little harder, but that's okay. I think like I used to look at it when I was younger. I used to look at it as, oh, this sucks. Like you're getting picked apart. But then I started seeing other now that I'm a little bit more mature, I love watching short fighters. I always root for all the short fighters. Um, like now I love Ilya Taporia because he's like the shortest one in the division. Um, I never root against the tall guy. Like I love Israel Adesanya, but I never root for him. Uh, I love John Jones, but never root for him. But the way I just did it was you just got to deal with it. It'd be cool if I was taller. It'd be cool if I was bigger than most people, but can't really change it.
well,
You just got
besides that, you got to deal with it. Like, what do you tell people who are getting into jujitsu, guys who are 5'6", 5'7", 5'8", who are not going to be the tallest in the room or the often the biggest? Like, what do you tell them? What did you learn that was really valuable?
for me. So I really focus on strength and technique. Like I know strength is not necessarily something that like you're supposed to be sure it doesn't matter, but like the type of strength training I do now is very calisthenic. Like I love doing push-ups, pull-ups, like having that body awareness. I love doing like parkour, ninja warrior type stuff, gymnastics type of stuff where I haven't touched a bench press in 10 years probably, but just having that body control, not even the strength, but just the control to be able to like do like hold yourself with one hand, to be able to really have that balance and mobility. That's probably going to be the better thing, but also hone into the things that someone shorter would have to do. So for me, like I'm a half guard guy. Most of the time, I can't wrap my legs around most people. Or if I do, it's like my toes pretty much like touching each other. That's it. But there's what I like about jujitsu specifically is you can be short, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're at a disadvantage. If you're striking, that's a different story. But there's nothing wrong with being the shorter guy in jujitsu.
Yeah.
You're gonna have your own things you gotta have to adapt to. You're gonna have your own style. Now, is the short guy gonna be doing triangles all the time? Probably not. But there's gonna be other things that you could do really well. So that's why for me, like I don't, and I mean this in a positive way. Like I have a student who's like 6'3", and he's fantastic. Love him. I have another student who's like 5'9", and I kind of tell him, I go, listen, like when it comes to jiu-jitsu, like your height doesn't really matter. I know it does, but I kind of don't let them even think that it does, because in my opinion, it really doesn't. When I go with tall people, it doesn't really change it. It doesn't annoy me in certain areas. Yeah, there's a guy who's 6'5" who can triangle his legs while I'm in his guard, and like still has space. But all right, then just avoid his guard. Like, I'm a lot more logical when it comes to jiu-jitsu than I am with strike. With striking, I'm a little bit more like, okay, we're gonna have to do some different stuff. Like we're gonna have to make this a little more uglier. We're gonna have to, bite on your mouthpiece a little bit more. We're gonna have to like walk through the fire.
I
But
learned a
it's
lot of my striking from Jimmy Rivera, ex UFC fighter. And so
yeah,
like what I used to get frustrated because I'm 6 foot, so I'm not super tall, but I'm not like short. But there was a lot of people at the gym that were a bit taller than me. And I would get frustrated, like, why can't I just jab in? Like, why can't I just get in there? And Jimmy's like, you have to jab in. And then I would watch him do it. And I'm like, I can't complain about being short. This dude would get in and wrestle people and beat them up in dirty box. And I'm like, that's different. And then that's what taught me to shut up and stop worrying about being, my height, and see that people who are short could actually be really incredibly good at striking.
yeah. And for the longest time, I used that as an excuse. Now, for me, I'm at a point now where I'm like, listen, I'm not getting any taller. Uh,
Not at
but
20 foot, not at 30, no.
in the MMA world where you're allowed to do a lot of things, it's a gift, because now it's like, okay, I love clinch work. Clinch work makes them a little bit shorter.
Yep.
There's takedowns, there's cage work. There's so many elements to it where
Yep.
it not necessarily makes it easier, but you have options to where if it was just straight American kickboxing where you're not allowed to clinch, it's kicks above the waistline, that wouldn't necessarily be the sport for me. It wouldn't be
Harder
my
to do
idea.
with shorter legs. Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't be my, especially if you can't kick the leg.
Yeah.
Or I'm like, okay, like that's not necessarily my thing. But with MMA, it's like, okay, I can grab onto you. Oh, I can get a little closer. Okay, there's options here. So that's where I really try not to let. And the reason why I don't make this a big deal is because I knew for a while I made it a big deal. So for them, I'm trying to not make it a big deal, so it doesn't become a big deal for them, because I don't want them to have any beliefs that I had. My biggest thing is I'm really trying to. I'm learning everything that I struggled with mentally. I'm trying to teach them not to do. I'm not trying to be forceful with it either, but like I'll teach drills that really practice the practice of not overthinking, because I used to overthink all the time. I used to want to throw that perfect combination or that perfect punch where it's like, okay, throw your combinations, you miss, you miss, throw your combinations again. One of them's going to land eventually if you keep throwing. Where for me, I'm like, I got to get that perfect snipe. I got one shot to do this. And the next thing you know, I get hit like 30 times.
Yeah. Don't watch your work. Don't want
Yeah.
don't aim for that one shot and watch your work.
Yeah. For me, I'm just trying to, there's a lot of the things that I've learned that I struggled with where I've learned, I've acknowledged what I've struggled with. And now I just want to gift my students with, hey, I don't want you to be someone that overthinks. I'm not going to blow smoke up their butt either. I'm not going to lie to them and be like, oh my God, you're amazing. Like, there's not going to, like, you're not going to deal with any issues. But I don't want them to stress these things. And I want them to just be like, listen, just go at it. If you quote unquote fail, that's actually what it is. I make it okay for them to make mistakes. I don't get on them for making mistakes. I might tease them a little bit if their hands are down, but Or if they're doing jujitsu, I might tease them a little bit for like, not holding something tight. But I don't make them feel bad about it. I just tell them, listen, like, we'll fix it.
I think
That's
that's
what.
a very healthy approach to, like, if you lower the impact, like the cost of failure, and it makes what people define as failure easier to deal with, then they're going to be more comfortable making mistakes and understand that the mistakes are how they grow. And I think that's a wonderful lesson to impart as a teacher to students who really struggle with perfectionism or the value of the, I have to do it right.
I'd be lying to you if I said I wasn't growing up a perfectionist. Um, I was one of those people. If I made a mistake, I would feel horrible about it, and it would bother me. Where for me, and this is why I don't watch the sport, but I love using this example. I use mixed martial arts and I compare it to basketball. Where when was the last time you saw a professional basketball game like 100-0?
It probably hasn't happened more
Like,
than a
yeah,
few times.
it's like you get the points. Like, did that guy make a mistake? No, that's just the point of the game. It's like that's pretty much what's going to happen. So that's kind of how I kind of compare it to.
I like the Star Trek quote from like a huge science fiction person, but it's you can do everything right and still lose. Right. And I think there's that idea of like you watch black belts and they fight an excellent fight, minimal mistakes, and then all of a sudden there's one small thing, and it's like, yeah, maybe it wasn't an actual mistake. It was just moved a little slower. The other person capitalized it. No mistakes, and somebody still lost. Right. And I think that's one of the a wonderful lesson about jujitsu that applies to life. Like you can do everything right and still lose.
Yeah, for me, I don't give them the. I teach technique, obviously, but I don't give them the. I don't. I make sure that their expectations are not super inflated because I think that's what makes people feel bad. It's like you have this expectation that you're going to become something, and I'm sure we see this with people that walk into the gym all the time. That new people, like they walk in thinking they're going to be much better than they are, and then that's what makes them humble is that they're not. Where for them, I go, listen, like don't underestimate anybody. You don't know if this person's like on steroids and is just super strong. You don't know if this person was a wrestler. You don't know if this person's just a super athlete. So don't have the expectation that you're going to walk through. Try your best. And let's learn from anything that we become. I think for me, one of the gift I really want these people to have, my students to have, is just that you're doing these crazy things that you never thought you'd be doing. You're getting better at this one sport. And this is an infinite potential growth. And that's the one thing I like about black belt because I'm 31 now, and I've definitely taken a lot of punishment, especially in my early 20s. I took a lot of punishment. Like I trained with somebody who does judo, and I got tossed around a lot. And when I was even like my late teens, I used to never wear shin guards in my 20s. Now in my 30s, like my legs are very sensitive.
Yeah.
But
I was similar. I thought I was too tough for shin guards, and then you start sparring with Uriah Hall and some of those other big guys who can just kick, and you're like, no, no shin guards, and I
yeah, no,
feel it now.
throughout my entire 20s, I was one of those people. I'm like, yeah, like hit hard, hit it hard. And I did. But then now in my 30s, it's like one flick to my perineal nerve and I'm out. So what was I saying right before that? I kind of forgot what I was saying. We talk about the expectations. Okay.
It's all right. I want to talk a little bit about some of the stuff you do with video production and weddings, because I think that stuff is like oddly very interesting because you're basically you swoop in for the one important day, and you're the person that captures all of this, and
Yeah.
people put a lot of faith in you, and then they never hear from you. You're like, here's the video, and they never hear from you again. Like, how'd
I
you get
get
into that?
okay, yeah. So for me, I grew up a professional wrestling fan, and I also loved music growing up. And one thing I loved about professional wrestling is that they just made things way too dramatic. Um, Everyone had an entrance with like really cinematic music. And there was a nice ambiance to it. So I really loved that. I loved that vibe. I loved pre-game speeches, like walkout songs. Um, I loved all of that aspect, all those atmospheric settings where it seems like an epic showdown. And I remember I'm like, this is like really cool. I love these music videos. I love like, people walking out on stage and like the feeling that you get from concerts and live performances. And I know the feelings that music gives. So I was in college and I was originally going to be a reporter. I wanted to be like in either like broadcasting or something in that nature. Cause I always loved like Howard. I was listening to Howard Stern at such a young age, like way too young. Um, Howard Stern, so like Elvis Duran and the Z100 morning show.
Yeah,
I
I
was listening to
remember
talk
all of
radio.
these growing up around New York.
Yeah, so I was listening to all that stuff at such a young age where I'm like, that's what I want to do. That seems like a really cool job. I was taking this class that was a mandatory class. It was called digital documentary. And the woman that was the professor of the class, she used to work for Law and Order SVU, and she gave me a really good compliment, and it stuck with me. She's like, you have an eye for this. I'm not trying to like boost your ego and whatnot, but I want you to take the second part of this class. I know it's not mandatory, but I want you to give yourself the chance to look and see what happens. So I did, and it was just one of those things where I just started to really like. I found an interest in it, and it was
What was the
cool
second
that
part of the class?
it was just like the part two.
Yeah, but like what was it? What
Oh,
was the
sure.
focus of
Yeah.
it?
So the first class, we had to do like a little, like a news commercial. So something we would see, like we would do a report on something and then we'd show supported B-roll. The next class, we would do whatever we wanted. So I was like, okay, how can I tell a story that was interesting? And for me, I took, and what was nice is I was still part of this community, the MMA community. So I had one of my friends who was like a chemist and like a doctor. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like she's a nerd, but she's also like a killer. And so I would interview her and I'd ask all these questions. I got a lot of good feedback. And one thing that they were saying was, you made this very interesting that made me want to pay attention. And I kind of understood and the reason why I bring up like the WWE is they do a very good job with making you feel a certain way with their storytelling. And what I mean by that is certain shots have their reasons. So, for example, this shot right now, the two of us, like you're seeing my face, you're seeing my hands, you're seeing my body language, how I'm explaining things. However, if I were to like back, I mean, my kitchen's right behind me, but if I was to go really far back, the things I'm saying won't mean as much because I'm no longer the focus of the shot. The focus of the shot's now going to be my kitchen, where I understood that very clearly because I always watched movies, during the intense scenes. That's when the close-ups start happening because you want to see the emotion on people's faces. I love one of the examples I love seeing, or I love telling people, is the show Friends, where the first shot is, I forgot what it's called, but that coffee shop that they hang out in,
Central
Central.
Perk.
Yeah, Central Park. And then the next shot's usually a wide shot of the setting where you have, I don't know what the order, what they sat in, but like you have Joey sitting on one couch, you have the three of them sitting on the other couch, you have another person sitting on a couch, you got the other guy standing up. And it's establishing, hey, this is where we are, this is who's at the coffee shop. And then if something important or funny was said, you would see a shot of the person speaking, but not just a shot of the person speaking, but a closer shot of them speaking. So you can really focus in on what they're saying, how they're saying it, and who they're saying it to. And you get those reactions. Like if I have a reaction that you need to see and connect with, it's not gonna be a wide shot of the whole coffee shop. It's gonna be a close-up on me specifically, because I'm the focus of that situation. So I understood that concept really easily because I was always envisioning all the shows I've watched. Um, and I always listened to music. And whenever I listened to music, I always kept thinking, like, what kind of story am I imagining when I hear this stuff? So that was the things that I really loved about the video production aspect. And then with weddings, honestly, during the summer, I needed an internship. So I'm like, all right, well, weddings, that's a great thing because Long Island has a very big wedding season. So I did it and I actually really liked it. And that's what made me stay with it. I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. Like, I got a chance to go to a party. I got a chance to eat some good food. I meet some really cool people. I'm like, this is a really cool gig. And I got paid for this too. And I just kept going. And for me, I started learning from anyone I can on YouTube. And I really started to just put together a portfolio, and it just became something more fun. Now I know, like, there's a crazy divorce rate, but I can't control what happens with their marriage, but I can control what I do on their wedding day. And for me, I'm like, they're putting a lot of effort into this, clearly. And whatever people think about weddings in general, they're still putting a lot of effort into it. And if I can help make that day memorable and the best day of their life, why not? So I just started doing the best I can. I try to make these things emotional, and I try to make it a little extra dramatic with a good song. I feel like you put the right song in there, like, it'll make something really dramatic.
So you think that's like one of the special skills you got is like nailing the song to the moment?
Yeah, and that's actually
That's a
the
cool
one thing.
skill.
It's a cool skill, but it's a hard skill because sometimes, and remember, this is the time where I was a perfectionist too. So finding that song wasn't easy. And you have to find a song that you can license to at the time. So I'm spending hours, like a full day's work, finding the perfect song, and then finding out if I can license that song.
What's like the craziest thing that's happened that you've seen at a wedding? I'm just curious.
I don't have the most amount of those stories. Um, I wish I had a collection of those stories. The craziest thing that I heard about at a wedding that I shot was, I need like 10 seconds to think about this one because there's two. There's one I'm thinking of that's like kind of inappropriate, but I'll tell it. And then I'm
It's
trying to
okay.
think of another one. I'm just trying to think I'm trying to think if there's a second place that could possibly be a second place one. Okay. So there's two stories. I did a wedding in Aruba last year, and
You got flown to Aruba for a wedding?
yeah, I've
That's
done a
awesome.
few destination weddings. I've done Greece, I've done Puerto Rico, I've done Mexico, I've done the Carolinas, I've done California. I did Jodie Sweetin's wedding 3 years ago.
From Full House?
Yeah, it was she was there, John Stamos was there. I have a
Cool.
picture of John Stamos. That was definitely a good highlight of my career. But the Aruba wedding, and this wasn't I don't think this is a crazy story. This is just more of a, hey, you got to be more responsible as a vendor. The vendor who was doing the hair left like the night before the wedding, but the night before wedding during the route was a tropical storm that like detoured the flight. When it comes to these vendors, like, you have to be there that day. Your business has to be there that day. Like, they hired you, they paid for you to fly out. Like, there's no like, oh, I'm sick, I can't come in today. That's the one, I don't want to say con, but that is the one. That's the hardest thing about what we do is that we have to deliver. Like, it's just all on that day. Whether, I have a team, fortunately, now, where I have people like for example, I have my best friend's getting married the same day of a wedding. I have a team that's covering the wedding. But for that wedding, she wasn't gonna make the flight. Fortunately, she did. Like, she had to catch like three different flights and like get on one of those little what do they call those little planes with you can still see the propellers
Puddle
outside.
jumpers.
Yeah, those puddle jumper flights. Like, she had to get on like two of those to get to the place, and she got there on time. But well, not even that on time. She threw off the day, but she got there for her job. And the other one was one of the photographers slept with like the cousin of the bride at the wedding. That was probably like the most intense story right now. But for the most part, a lot of the couples I deal with they're just really sweet people. Um, I don't really have that many divorces under my belt. Uh, they're just really kind, loving people. For me, I just try to. I think my work kind of relates to it, where I want mine to be very family based. So I try to include everybody, and usually those types of people will attract similar types of people. So as far as I've been very fortunate with my wedding season. I mean, it's definitely been, it's not the easiest job ever because you got to make sure you do it right.
What's like the
But
most important thing for you?
for me, I think just being present in the moment where I used to be a perfectionist where you had to get the right shot, the right moment. But for me now, there's moments that happen that aren't the ceremony and like the speeches that you kind of want to see, you kind of want to make sure that you're there for. So like for example, there might be like the dad who sees his daughter. Like those are the moments where I'm like, oh, that those are more important than like the paper says. So sometimes the dad might see his daughter for the first time, and it's like you better make sure your camera's there, not because you're not gonna get fired or anything like that, but that's the above and beyond type of shots that they cherish over time. Or my favorite thing is really I like the if I personally like to be the person where if you say something casually and nonchalant, but I know it means a lot to you, I'll make sure to put it in there. So like my biggest thing is I've had a lot of couples who have lost somebody, whether it be a sibling, a parent, a child, like just go through heartbreak. And they won't ask for this, but I'll do this for them. I'll find a way to honor them. And like I had a groom where his brother had uh taken his own life. There was a little memorial section for him. And he didn't mention this at all. I didn't ask. It wasn't my business. But I'm like, I want to honor the people who are no longer with us. So I took a shot of the brother. And there is, I don't know if this is serendipitous, but there's the photo that they have of the brother and the groom where they are standing the same exact way. So I kind of put like an opacity thing where you can see the brother slightly, but then you can also see the groom. And they had said like that's a small detail that they really appreciated. So like those are the things I really like to do. Like I like to,
That's really beautiful that you caught that and were able to do something like that for them.
yeah, like that's the stuff that I really like to do the most. It's like it's one of those things where it's like, you know, they put a lot of effort into it, and I just want them to obviously appreciate what I do, but I just want them to associate just just joy. I just want to give to them, and it's something that's meaningful. I think there should be more of that type of stuff in the world. I think there's not enough of it. Um, for me, I just like I don't want to say I'm an overly emotional person, but I like sentiment.
Yeah.
I like things. I like symbolism. I like all that stuff. I like like this means nothing, but like I don't know, I think it's cool. It's one of my favorite bands. It's called August Burns Red. But it's like, okay, I love logos. I love all that stuff. So whenever I see something that's like important, like I try to just throw it in there.
Are there any like wedding moments that like change the way you do, well, either look at life or maybe look at the work you do? Is there any like thing that stuck out in your mind as, hey, I'm now different because of this?
I love people who could public speak. I I've heard enough speeches from very good fathers and mothers to where it makes me want to be a better speaker. Whereas there are some people who are so moving. Like there's people who could say a lot of things that are really sentimental, and there's people who could speak in a way that, hey, everyone's gonna listen. So I've heard some parent speeches that are very captivating and very heartfelt, where I'm like, okay, you caught my attention. I wasn't just making sure the shot was good. And for me, I guess it's really made me realize there's actually, you know what? There's one scene I forgot. I don't know why I forgot this. There was a father who got shot, and he was no longer able to walk properly. However, he trained for like years. And I think I still have the video on my Instagram where he trained to walk his daughter down the aisle. And that was the one where I'm like, okay, that's a gut wrencher right there. So that was I made a little bit more of an emotion on that one. Um
Understandably so.
yeah, where it's like,
That's
hey,
intense.
the one thing and I'm perfectly okay with saying this. I think we will do way more for others than we will ourselves. And that's probably one of the biggest lessons. So it's like, you know, do those things mean the world to people? Because I don't think she knew it was going to happen, but
Wow.
it was one of those things where you're like, and definitely the audience didn't know it was going to happen. But that type of stuff, I was like, it makes me just want to give to people more. And I feel like there's nothing, I don't know what feels better. Like, there's nothing I could do for myself that would make me feel as good as doing something for somebody else.
I feel like that's a lesson that a lot of people don't learn early enough, especially in a world where like take care of yourself is kind of the starting point for a lot of people. I'm curious how you like handle couples or people who are like exceedingly shy. Who are like, you're like, look, my job is to be here to photograph you. And people are like, no, don't like, that's enough pictures. Like, how do you, cause I've been at weddings where people are like that. And then I see like either the bride or the groom or whatever be like, honey, just let him take the picture.
Yeah, and that still happens. And that is usually something that people will come to me with. And they'll be, listen, like, I'm really awkward in front of the camera. But that's also my job to, and when I talk to couples, I do tell them, I go, listen, when you're hiring me, I want you to ask yourself, would you want to hang out with me for 10 hours? Because that's what's going to happen. We're going to hang out for 10 hours. And one thing I'm really interested in, and I'm very into, is stand-up comedy. And one thing, the reason why I like stand-up comedy is comedians tell the truth, which is why we laugh. So they'll say something that, not that we choose not to talk about it, but it's something that we either all think, but it brings us all together. So I tell people, and I tell especially the guys, because the guys are usually the ones that they're like, okay, well, it's whatever she wants. It's her day. I'll just follow along. I just don't want to. I want to hang out with my friends and just drink beers. That's okay. That's fine. But I'll tell them that. I go, listen, I know you're here for her. I know that you want to hang out with your friends, eat good food, drink beer. Can you please just give me these few minutes? I'll make this as easy as possible, and I will physically bring you the beer. And usually they're like, okay, they're a lot more accepting. But I think just giving that opportunity to be like, hey, listen, like, I'm just a person. I'm not trying to make your life hell. Um, I know what you might be feeling. By just being sympathetic and just trying to understand what that person's going through, just having that compassion, that that really goes a long way. And I think that's how it's like that relates to jujitsu. It's like whenever someone new comes in, I acknowledge, I go, listen, like, it's not easy to walk into a gym. It's not easy to start somewhere new. So I want to acknowledge feelings that they're most likely having, because I feel like once you kind of connect with them on that level, then I'm not trying to like manipulate them or anything like that, but I'm trying to connect with them in a way where it's like, hey, like, you're safe here. Like, you could tone it down a little bit. Like, you can let loose a little bit here. Like, I'm not like, I'm just trying to help you.
Have you ever had somebody at a wedding try to, I don't want to say fight you necessarily, but oh, you shouldn't you better delete that picture or like, I don't know. I'm just,
Yeah. So in that situation, I recorded a retreat, and there was a woman who was telling me, like, you better, like, let me see this camera, let me see the shots you're doing. You better not be taking shots of me. And I didn't know the whole story. And then I found out it's because she was having an affair. Um, but at weddings specifically, I've had groomsmen who, I really try my best to present myself as someone who's not a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on
right.
wedding day, because I don't want people to look at me as like, because there's still that stigma where it's like, oh, that guy does MMA, like, he might be like just like this.
Macho
Yeah,
thug.
I'm just
Yeah,
trying
I
not.
get it.
For me, I'm just trying to be like a regular person. I don't think my ears are that bad. Like, I don't think like, I keep my mustache so I don't look like a Dagestani. Like, because I know, like, sometimes when you look at me, I'm like, I'm half Middle Eastern, so sometimes people are like, okay, like, this guy looks like one of like the
Yeah.
Makachevs, or like, I've gotten that before. I do my best. Like, I dress professionally. I dress like a photographer, I'd say. But there are times where I have to like put my foot down and like get these rowdy, drunk group of people to take photos that the bride wants. Otherwise, they're gonna get upset if they don't get it done. So sometimes I'll have to really put my foot down. But then sometimes you'll get a little combative people where they're a little standoffish. But I don't really drink alcohol. So for me, I've always been a little, I've never been a fan of really getting like drunk, or I never saw the appeal of it. So I do see a lot of drunk people, and a lot of times that drunkenness is usually what gets them to like feel like they could fight a little bit more. I've never fought anybody at weddings. I never would, but I've had some people who have been like, what are you gonna do? Like I've had some of that type of attitude. For me, I usually just walk away. Like it's just not worth it. But I've had that groomsman or that uncle who is a little bit drunk and his ego's a little high. Like he doesn't like another guy telling him what to do. Where for me, I'm just on the couple side. Like for me, that entire day is dedicated to the couple, and then it goes couple, parents, like siblings, and then everybody else. So like I'm there to serve them. So if they want photos, I'm gonna make sure that they get what they want. So sometimes if I have to say, hey guys, get your shit together, they may not like that, but I'd rather take the brunt than have the bride take the brunt. And for me, I think I've learned enough verbal jujitsu to not ever have to get into a physical altercation, but it still does bother me when it's like, please, sometimes I ask myself, I'm like, should I just invite them to jujitsu one day? Like, I never always, I can control myself and all that type of stuff. I'll never cross the line.
You
But
just keep
sometimes,
a bunch of cards in your pocket and you're like, hey, like, at the end of the wedding when you see them leaving, you're like, hey, here's a card. Why don't you come visit the gym?
yeah. And then the other thing that I'm not a fan of, and I really do my best to be as vigilant as I can with this, is I have a lot of females that work with me or work for me. And I just want to make sure that they feel safe. And I've heard stories of how, someone makes a bad comment or someone tries something, and it's like, I don't tolerate that type of stuff. And I'd like to think my presence kind of prevents that, or I would at least think that the people that are attending the wedding aren't like that. But those are usually the circumstances where something would happen. But I think I'm professional enough and I think I'm fair enough to where people aren't just going to start stuff. Now, I've seen family amongst themselves fight. I personally don't get involved with that, even if I'm right there, because
Do you at least video it?
yeah, like I would definitely at least video it.
Okay.
Um, I only filmed like a few. I filmed a few like I never filmed a full brawl. I never seen a full brawl at a wedding, but I've definitely seen a few like verbal like exchanges. But I do that for two reasons. One, because it's funny, but two, I do that for the couple because they're gonna ask me, "Hey, did you happen to get the video of that?" And yeah, it's like I feel like it helps. Like, I'm not trying to start anything, but at the same time, it's like I'm there for the couple. So if the couple were to say, "Please don't film this," I'll be like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna film this at all." But if the couple's not there, I'll be like, "Hey, I'm just gonna let you know, like, here's what happened." Because I have seen, I'm
It's
sorry,
probably better to have it and then delete it than not have it and uh, not have the
I
option.
did have I did a wedding in North Carolina, and there was this I don't know what his relationship was, but he was a groomsman that he was definitely a wild guy. Like he was the guy that like took his shirt off like way too early in the wedding. Like he was loud. Like he was definitely like an attention seeker. But I recorded a lot of the antics that he was doing just because I thought, okay, this is just like a fun party guy, like giving me footage. But I later found out that he got like knocked out by somebody else because he was just acting up. But this was like well after I left. But then she was able to say, she's like, I could tell by the footage that he was just acting like an idiot. But there was no footage of him getting knocked out, but there's footage of him acting like an idiot to where they drew the conclusion. It's like, okay, you clearly did something to kind of attract this type of energy towards you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can understand that, especially on somebody's like kind of special day.
Yeah.
Is there any piece of advice that you kind of wish everybody knew? Whether it's from weddings or jujitsu or Tony Robbins or any of the things that you do.
There's like five answers I can give you.
Hey, whatever makes you happy.
The best parts of life are never alone. And I could say this from not even from weddings, but just from overall life experience. I am somebody who has traveled significantly a lot. the past 5 years, I think I've been to, actually, you know what? If you were to skip COVID, I think I've been to on like 40 trips. Last year and a half, I went to Greece, Italy, New Zealand, Australia, Iceland, Aruba, like, and my favorite moments. And you know what? I actually learned this from my 10-year-old niece. She was now 11. We went to Iceland last year, and I asked her, like, what is your favorite moment of Iceland? Because she's very girly, and Iceland, if you haven't had a chance to go, I know you're
I've
in
been.
Germany. Okay, so
Yeah,
you
I've
know
been to Iceland.
the weather's not necessarily reliable. Like one day it's raining, the next day it's beautiful, the next day it's windy. We went up Skogafoss, and on the side of Skogafoss, there's this big staircase. There's no rails. We were miserable. It's like it's a hike. Your legs are tired, like you're sweating, like you're raining. It's so uncomfortable. She goes, that was one of the greatest days of my life. Like that was one of my favorite parts of the trip. And she's like, not seeing the place, not the part of Iceland. It's just being with you guys and just joking around afterwards. And it gave me a perspective where I'm like, we didn't have to fly to Iceland for the to have this feeling. Um, I've heard a few quotes like this before. It's like the best meals you'll ever have are most likely on a paper plate. The most important meals you'll ever have are usually the people you're having dinner with or you're eating with. And then, yeah, I just, yeah. So my saying like the best parts of life are never alone. Yeah, I think just sharing those experiences with people, that's really the best part. So I definitely think like just being around people is a good element. Another thing is, I think, and this is a Tony Robbins quote, is the secret to living is giving. And this has really changed my life for the better, is because like I teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and the thing that I honestly, the act of actually teaching Jiu-Jitsu is not what I enjoy the most of. It's the I get a chance to watch the kid that's overweight lose weight. I get a chance to watch that kid that is overweight gain the confidence to wear a rash guard only. And this was a big one for me. He's very self-conscious about his weight, but a few months ago he came in with the gi, but like bare chested too. And for me, I don't even like to walk around bare chested. I'm like, I'm a little self-conscious, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this. Like, but you can see the confidence that he's getting with this type of stuff. Um,
That's honestly my favorite thing about teaching is like watching people build confidence when somebody runs over after they might get a move and or like maybe they get the move of the day and they run over. They were like, Coach, I just got the move of the day. And then they're like, then they run back and find the next partner for sparring. And I was like, that's awesome. Like watching
I
people gain that confidence is one of my favorite things about teaching.
My latest one is I had a woman who she's 45 years old. She never really got into fitness. But she's got a high energy about her. So love having her around. She's been training with me for about 4 months now. And it was maybe a few weeks ago. We had a 16-year-old kid who was like 230 pounds. He comes in the class. He had like a karate background, taekwondo background, no grappling background, but he wanted to learn. So I'm like, okay, fine. He's going with me. He's going with other people. And then she goes, can I go with him? And at first I'm like, okay. I'm like, I'm going to watch it, but yeah. And she like, and the only reason why she didn't get it is because she was on the chin, but like, she's like about to choke this kid out. I'm like, holy shit. Like, whoa, this is she like did her absolute best. Yeah, she was just like, the kid knew enough to kind of like protect the choke like this, but like she had everything else right. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is a woman who was not doing anything before March. And now she's doing this. And it's like, well, I don't know if she was not doing anything, but like this is a woman who didn't do any like martial arts training.
No fighting. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, now you're doing this. And I want to give them the credit, but other people are like, listen, like this is what you've done. So I'm giving myself permission to take some credit. Some, not all. But it was just one of those things where it's like, I think the best piece of advice another piece of advice I could tell people is you don't realize how much impact you could have on somebody if you really tried. And that's really been the best gift that I've had with jujitsu is I'm one of those people personally, when it comes to actually Brazilian jiu-jitsu, I don't like to talk about it. Like in this situation I am because the podcast is about the episode, but like with my students, like sometimes we go to the diner. I'm like, can we talk about anything else, guys? Like, let's talk about like, we'll talk about talk about what you see on TikTok. Talk about politics, if anything. Like, I just don't want to talk about Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Because I like to like when I'm on the mat, I'll do everything jiu-jitsu wise. When I'm off the mat, I like to disconnect. But for me, it's making me realize it's like, yeah, I teach jiu-jitsu, but what makes me feel alive is the lessons that they learned from jiu-jitsu, the progress that they gained from it. And it's probably one of the better tools I can use to make that change.
That's really well articulated. I like the way you said that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that's just for me. I realize like my life's purpose is, like I said, I don't need to breed champions. I don't need to become a John Danaher. I respect them. I love them. I think what they do is fantastic. I think it's needed. For me, where my place is taking these groups of people who, whether they're a guy, whether you're a woman, whether you're a child, whether you have a problem that you want to solve, whether you don't, but you're looking for something. You're joining a jiu-jitsu academy for some reason. And it's usually not the reason that you come in saying. Like some people are like, I want to defend myself or I want to get fit. You're usually looking for something else. And there's usually a deeper reason behind it. My goal is to help you get there and just make get you past there and realize, hey, there's more to you.
That's a very noble goal.
Yeah. And also selfishly, I feel way better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I get that.
that's like there's no better feeling. So that's like it's a noble, absolutely. But selfishly, I feel like $1,000,000 when someone says thank you. I'm like, oh, you just I'll eat that all up.
What are you excited for in the future?
For me, also, I do want to open up my own academy. Right now, I have a program inside of a fitness studio, which I love right now. Solid program. For me, I am looking forward to. That's a great question, actually, because this has really consumed a lot of my life right now. But for me, I definitely okay. So you know what? I just signed up for a High Rocks. Have you heard of that?
No,
So
what's
High
that?
Rocks is like I don't want to say CrossFit, but it's like a running slash fitness race,
Like a
and
Tough Mudder kind of a thing,
not as fun.
but
So
just
High Rocks,
conceptually similar.
you run a kilometer, and then you do a kilometer worth of the rower. You run a kilometer, and then you do like 80 meters of burpee broad jumps. You run a kilometer.
That
And the
sounds
reason why I signed
terrible.
up for this, yeah, the reason why I signed up for this is because all my life I've done everything I could to avoid running. I would be the worst triathlete. I can ride a bike, but I'm horrible. I can swim, but I hate swimming and I hate running. So I'm like, I gotta get over this. I gotta run. I did every sort of conditioning except for running, but let me do this run. And I'm training for it. I'm training very serious for it. I even changed the way I'm eating for it. I know I had the frosty before, but uh,
No
like
one's
I
perfect.
I'm cooking all my own food. Like yeah, like that. The behind me is like food I'm gonna make later on, and like my pan I'm ready to cook on. Where it's like, okay, I take this seriously. I want to be able to say like, and I'm not even just doing it for me, but I'm also doing it for like other people who like I'm doing it for my parents too. It's like I want to encourage them to exercise. Where it's like this, I absolutely hate running. I'm not a good runner right now. Um, like I get tired very quickly. Yeah, all the jujitsu training goes right out the window. It's like, yeah, this is a
Different kinds
different.
of stamina, different kinds of
Yeah, it's like,
endurance. Yeah.
yeah, like, people walk faster than I run. Like I'm like, but I've been training for that, and I go to F45 for my like strength and conditioning. So they've been helping me out a lot there. And it's just been something where I'm like, I want to do this. I'm going to do this. I signed up for it. I paid for it already. It's like, I'm going to do the best I can and just be like, I just ran 5 miles of technically like not hard sprinting, but like 1,000 meters is 2.5 laps on the track where it's like, you can't necessarily jog that if you want a decent
No,
time.
you can't.
So that's what I'm really looking forward to. It's like really just improving my fitness. And um, for me, I'm really just trying to think of other ways I can serve because, yeah, like I said before, the secret of living with giving. And I really never experienced more highs in life than just trying to give to communities and just trying to be a local big brother to people. That's really, yeah, I mean, that surpasses the black belt. That surpasses any amount of money that I can ever make is just, what kind of impact can I leave? Well, can I make on this world?
That's a really good thought to wrap this up on. Is there anything that you want to promote? Obviously your videography, like where can people
Yeah.
find you?
So, yeah, for sure. So I have a company called the Midnight Project. So you can find me on, let me just make sure I have the Instagram
Just
right.
just say it right now, and then I'll put it all in the show notes.
Yeah. So the Midnight Project is my wedding company. I also do commercial stuff for video content creation. So like, for example, if somebody wants to just create more, video for their marketing, whether you're a business, whether you're an influencer, I offer that service as well. And then I also have my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu page, where I currently work at a Lifetime Fitness in New
That's
York.
Matt Shamloo, BJJ MMA.
That is correct.
Good.
I'm currently an instructor right there. My long-term goal is to have my own facility and just create a place. Somebody who I really aspire, and I almost want to look at him like a mentor because he's doing something that I want to do. Do you know who Jason Wilson is? I'll show it. I think his name's Jason Wilson. I'll send you a link, but he takes kids in like Detroit and he offers them like like a community where they come from maybe like a broken home, but he changes them into better men using martial arts. So it's like I kind of want to do something like that. So like I want my own program so this way I can do those types of things in the future.
That's something to look forward to.
Thank you.
Thanks a
Appreciate
lot
it.
for your time, Matt. I really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
appreciate
This was
that.
a fun conversation.
Likewise, yeah, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I hope to talk to you again soon.
Yep.
Thank you for listening. If you have any questions about covering weddings with photos or videos, feel free to reach out to Matt. If you have more questions about the Tony Robbins community, Matt would love to talk about it. If you find yourself near Long Island, New York, USA, find Matt for a role. You can find his contact information and websites in the show notes. And as always, thank you for your time and attention.